Most of us are waiting for clarity. Not the small kind, the big kind. The kind that tells us what to do next, which path to choose, who to become. We imagine clarity as a moment, sudden, clean, unmistakable, like a light switch on in a dark room. But for most of life, that moment never comes, and the waiting itself becomes uncomfortable. We tell ourselves that once things are clear, we'll act. Once we understand, we'll move. Once the confusion settles, we'll decide. Until then, we hesitate, we stall, we keep everything on hold. But clarity rarely works that way. It doesn't arrive all at once, it arrives in pieces. Think about the last important decision you made. Chances are it didn't begin with certainty. It began with discomfort. A quiet sense that something wasn't right. A subtle pull in a different direction. A question you couldn't ignore anymore. That wasn't clarity. It was the beginning of it. We often mistake clarity for confidence, but confidence usually comes after action, not before it. Most people don't move because they're certain. They become certain because they've moved. Clarity follows engagement, not contemplation alone. There's a reason confusion feels so heavy. It asks something of us. It asks us to sit with uncertainty, to move without guarantees, to accept that not knowing is part of being human, and we don't like that. So we look for answers that promise relief, frameworks, advice, certainty packaged as wisdom, but borrowed clarity is fragile. It collapses the moment your life doesn't fit the example. Real clarity is slower. It grows quietly through experience, through mistakes that teach you what doesn't work, through conversations that leave something unresolved, through time spent paying attention. It's less like a revelation and more like a gradual sharpening. Imagine walking through fog. At first, you can't see very far at all, just a few steps ahead. If you stop and wait for the fog to clear completely, you may never move. But if you take one step, then another, the path reveals itself slowly. Not all at once, but just enough. We tend to demand too much from clarity. We want it to explain the entire future, to eliminate risk, to guarantee the outcome. But clarity isn't a map, it's a direction. And direction is often all you need. There's a quiet freedom in accepting this. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need to see the whole picture. You don't need certainty before you begin. You just need enough understanding to take the next honest step. Notice how often you say things like, I'll decide when I'm sure, I'll start when it feels clear, I'll wait until I understand this better. Sometimes that's wisdom, but sometimes it's fear dressed up as patience. Clarity doesn't avoid discomfort, it moves through it. It's shaped by friction, by feedback, by being wrong and adjusting. If you wait for clarity to remove all doubt, you may end up waiting forever. Think of people you admire. Their lives probably look coherent in hindsight, like a series of intentional choices leading somewhere meaningful. But lived forward, those choices were likely very messy, unclear, tentative. The story only makes sense after it's been lived. This is why reflection matters. Not to force clarity, but to notice it as it forms. To recognize patterns, to see what keeps returning, to pay attention to what feels aligned and what doesn't. Clarity isn't something you find, it's something you grow into. There's also a quieter truth we often avoid. Sometimes confusion isn't a lack of clarity, it's a signal. A signal that you've outgrown an old answer, that the question has changed, that what worked before no longer fits. In those moments, clarity doesn't arrive, it evolves. So if you feel unsure of something right now, if things feel foggy or unfinished, if you're waiting for a moment of certainty that hasn't come, that doesn't mean you're stuck. It means you're in the middle. And the middle is where most real understanding is formed. You don't need a sudden realization. You don't need a perfect plan. You need patience, attention, and the courage to move without full clarity, because clarity rarely arrives all at once. It arrives quietly, step by step, as you keep going.